Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yasmin Nichols, and my country of origin is the United States. And I'll be talking about Hurricane Katrina and Sandy and how it disproportionately affected communities of color. As you well know, Hurricane Katrina ravaged New Orleans in 2005, and then Hurricane Sandy rocked the Northeast in 2012. These two case studies are important because they breach the false barrier that the United States has created for itself. They demonstrate that climate change is not bound by geographic region, nor bound by national lines. No country is safe. People of color especially are unsafe because they are often pushed into at-risk spaces. When Hurricane Katrina struck the Gulf Coast in August 2005, the protection from barrier islands had gradually been whittled away. Louisiana had lost 1.2 million acres of coastal wetlands. In 1965, the U.S. Army Corps built Mr. Go, a channel that provided a shortcut from the Gulf of Mexico to the heart of New Orleans. Now, the significant loss of wetlands in cypress forest was a direct result of Mr. Go. However, oil and energy producers also bear much of the burden. Between the 1930s and the early 2000s, approximately 30 miles of coastal wetlands were dug up by oil and gas companies like ExxonMobil. Official figures put the land loss caused by these companies at 36%, while other studies put the figures between 85 and 90%. Katrina was the culmination of human hubris. The hurricane started as a Category 1 storm in Florida, but made landfall as a Category 4 on August 29th. Eventually, Katrina grew to a Category 5, trapping the 112,000 residents who were unable to answer the mayor's call to evacuate. Perhaps residents were unable to evacuate because the mayor's call came only one day before the storm hit. Or perhaps it was because state and local governments did not provide transportation out of the city. Either way, the consequences are clear. The storm left the lower Ninth Ward inundated with between 6 and 8 feet of water. 1,800 people died. Another 300,000 people were displaced. 75,000 men, women, and children sat on rooftops without access to food and water for 3 days in 90-degree weather. It took FEMA 48 hours to arrive at the disaster site, and the only safe haven, the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, was severely overcrowded, holding a total of 15,000 refugees who had insufficient food, water, and sanitary facilities. Most shockingly, I think, police officers in the West Bank blocked a bridge from New Orleans, preventing large numbers of evacuees from escaping the deluged city. Indeed, as I looked into the eyes of those distressed residents of the Ninth Ward, I saw what I could not yet articulate. There before me, I saw the intersection between race and environmental injustice, as I had before seen in a town called Talabast in Florida, and in my own neighborhood in Brooklyn. I asked myself, in the words of Dr. James Cone, whose earth is it anyway? 67% of New Orleans residents are Black, and 30% live in poverty. The New Orleans City Council voted to allow HUD to destroy thousands of low-income housing units in 2007, reducing the African American population. In voting to destroy and replace low-income units, the council voted to destroy a part of New Orleans history. 80% of people living in public housing remain locked out of their homes or find their homes bulldozed upon their return. In the year 2016, the Southeast Louisiana Flood Board remains trapped in a legal battle with 97 oil and gas companies, including Exxon, BP, Shell, and Chevron, companies that refuse to pay out reparations to victims of the Katrina catastrophe. Katrina, I think, represents a great moral failure in our nation's history. It was and is a failure to protect, honor, and repair Black lives. It was and is an inhumane injustice caused by human agents. Similarly, Hurricane Sandy is an example of a man-made monster that had a particularly devastating effect on low-income families. Sandy, also fueled by global warming, made landfall in New York City in October 2012, and within a matter of hours, damaged or destroyed more than 650,000 homes, killed over 100 people, upended thousands of lives, and incurred $65 billion in damages. Katrina and Sandy are about more than numbers and statistics, though. These two disasters are paradigmatic because they illustrate not just how corporate irresponsibility can have ruinous effects on entire communities, but illustrate the ways in which low-income groups and people of color are targets of environmental racism. Yes, Katrina and Sandy must be approached with the same scrutiny as Charleston or Flint. Katrina and Sandy are the inevitable products of systemic racism and a blatant disregard for Afro-human life. You see, systemic environmental racism is rooted in corporate greed and in the myth of American advancement. It is about the advancement of corporate bodies and not about the collective uplift of all of America's inhabitants. The not in my backyard or NIMBY mentality that defines companies like Exxon must be changed. Exxon and companies like it must be held accountable for their failure to uphold the highest standards of integrity and for their decision to privilege profit over preservation. Companies like Exxon must be condemned and indicted. They are thoughtless, destroying both human and non-human life. Whose earth is it anyway? It is our earth, and we must begin to take it back, if not for ourselves, then for those who do not have the privilege of speaking here today. Thank you.